Creeks, now raging rivers, churn through New York towns.
I believe you're going to see more damage before it starts to get better.
Some communities cut off by washed out roads and bridges.
I've been away for a week and a half, so I wanted to get home.
Hurricane evacuees want to go home but hit roadblocks with the thruway closed. And many flights to New York City are canceled from Rochester.
Travelers and evacuees remain stranded in Rochester and elsewhere, unable to get home. Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Barnhart. Doug is off today.
And I'm Jenny Ryan. We are talking about areas that are not usually affected by a hurricane. High water washed out roads and carried bridges into floodwaters. And less than 2 hours away, the state thruway just east of Syracuse remains closed due to flooding. And while some can't travel by road to get home, others are also having problems flying, in fact. 13 Wham's Jane Flash joins us now live from the airport, where many travelers had to deal with cancellations again today. Jane?
They certainly did, Jenny. You know, JFK and Newark airports did open to arrival flights at noon today, but with 20,000 passengers stranded there, flights here had to be canceled in order for airlines to deal with that backlog. Now, the departures board showed it again today. For the third day, travelers who needed to get to or through New York City continue to be in limbo. Some who are headed overseas or to further destinations are actually being rerouted through other hubs like Detroit, but it was down to the wire for Kathy Shantz on whether she'll actually be able to hook up with the foreign exchange program that she needs to meet in Japan.
We're supposed to arrive anytime on August 30th in Nagoya, and if I miss my plane when I get to Detroit, that's the rest of my trip.
I don't have a seat assigned yet, but everything looks okay. So everything should be all set, but I was a little concerned this morning.
Now, Amtrak runs to New York City were canceled today also because of the flooding concerns south of Albany. However, Trailways and Greyhound buses were running. We found a long line there today. So again, if your travel plans even now require you to go through or to New York City, you do need to be in touch with your airline because there still are cancellations as of now. But the airport director says she expects things will be back to normal sometime tomorrow. Reporting live from the Greater Rochester International Airport, Jane Flash, 13 Wham News.
Thanks, Jane. The remnants of Hurricane Irene are breaking up over Canada, but the nightmare of the storm continues. Millions are facing the prospect of days without electric power, and no one knows when the massive floodwaters will recede or just how much damage they'll leave behind. ABC's John Hendren reports the recovery has begun.
The storm that largely skipped New York City swamped New York State. Governor Andrew Cuomo got his first look at the surging rivers that washed out roads and brought down buildings. In the Catskill Mountains, rescue crews motored through strong currents to find people who were trapped.
The town's basically destroyed. I mean, maximum damage.
In New Jersey, floodwaters took down power lines and disrupted commuter rail service. In Pompton Lakes, a house exploded after the owner says he reported a gas main leak.
Thank God we're all alive and nobody got hurt.
And in Bennington, Vermont, the Roaring Branch River carried away a car. Nobody was inside.
Oh my God.
At least 3 of the state's historic bridges were swept away.
Oh my God.
The combined death toll in 10 states climbed past 30. The federal government promised to pay for 75% of early emergency operations.
I'm going to make sure that FEMA and other agencies are doing everything in their power to help people on the ground.
Back in the bigger cities, life bounced back to normal. The nation's largest mass transit system in New York was running once again at full capacity.
Got onto a train that came. That was it. That's the way you do it in the after a hurricane.
And now we're getting our first estimates of just how much damage Irene did. Insurance companies say the price tag is between $2 and $8 billion. Compare that to Hurricane Katrina exactly 6 years ago today. It cost $106 billion. Scott Goldberg, ABC News, New York.
Monroe County is preparing to send more first responder teams to affected areas if they're needed. Some towns still cut off because roads and bridges are damaged or just washed out. They are Keene in the Adirondacks and Windham in the Catskills. And Governor Cuomo says power should be restored to most of New York City on Thursday and to Westchester on Friday, but it could take longer upstate and on Long Island. He also says there's no estimate on the damage because of continuing upstate flooding. Entire farms have been lost along the Schoharie Creek.